What is learned helplessness? Well, it's pretty straightforward. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is when you have learned to feel helpless. Now, maybe you are living your life and you just feel helpless. You feel like there's not a lot you can do to change your life, to change your relationships, to change how you feel, to change what thoughts go through your head, to change what outcomes you get, to change the success that you have or the lack thereof. There's not really anything that you can do to make any significant changes in your life in the direction that you want to be going, things that you want to be having, and you feel pretty helpless in your own life. That is learned. That is not who you are. That is how you learned to be. And so today I'm going to talk to you about what learned helplessness can look like, some reasons why we develop this thing called learned helplessness, and then what the antidote is so that we can get out of this mindset, out of these beliefs, out of this state of being that is keeping us feeling stuck and trapped and helpless and hopeless. And they are doing painting and some construction in my neighbor's place below me. So if you hear some banging, you hear some noise, that is what's going on today. So we're going to roll with it and know that you'll just get a little bit of extra ambient noise. And maybe that is going to be an extra special benefit for you today. If you're new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. Take a second, introduce yourself in the comment section below. If you are back again, it is always good to have you. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. The button's about right down there. If you get something out of the talk, if you could like it, that would be amazing. And yeah, either way, my name is Kristina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and the creator of my incredible membership community where people that are here, people like you, are coming in and learning the step-by-step tools and processes to fundamentally change how they feel and think about themselves, others, life, and the world. They are getting themselves unstuck and they are no longer feeling helpless in any areas of their lives. You can get more information about the Shift Society in the description below. I help heart-centered humans break through the crap that is holding them back so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And the good news is, if you struggle with this idea, this concept of learned helplessness, the good news is that all is not lost because you are here. So even if there's part of you that feels kind of stuck or trapped, or there's nothing you can really do to have the life that you want, to be feeling how you want to be feeling, to be showing up the way that you want to be showing up, to be creating the things that you want to be creating, part of you believes that it is possible, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be on a mental wealth channel that teaches how to feel better and live better and have better if you didn't think that it was even remotely possible for yourself. So that is the good news. That said, how do you know you're struggling with learned helplessness? Well, chances are you are struggling with it if things in your life show up like you don't ask for help because you just think that nothing can really be done. You just feel kind of stuck. This is the way that it is. No one can really help. Nothing can be done. Or you get frustrated really easily and you give up really easily. If you try something and you're like, this isn't going to work, this doesn't work, I can't do it. And you get really down on yourself and give up pretty easily. If you struggle with motivation, where you kind of have this thought that like, well, it doesn't really matter how hard I try, it's going to be too hard, or it's going to take too long, or I'm not going to really be able to do it anyways, which then goes along perfectly with the kind of best friend of lack of motivation, which is procrastination, where you have plans, you have ideas, maybe even you have a little bit of hope that something could get better or that you could reach a goal, but you keep putting it off because in the back of your head, you kind of also have the belief that nothing that you do is really going to work, or it's going to be too hard, or it's going to end up failing at some point. So really, there's no point. And you can see how if you're going through life with these beliefs, with these thoughts that nothing I really do amounts to anything and nothing is really going to change, then it's no wonder why you might be struggling with depression or low self-esteem or feeling helpless or even anxiety. So how does this happen? How do we get into the state of living in this helpless state in our own lives? So this term learned helplessness was created by world-renowned psychologist Martin Seligman, who is also the creator of positive psychology. Sorry, my brain just went somewhere else for a second. The creator of positive psychology. He has tons of books. You can do more reading. You can learn about his work, and he's got some really great stuff out there. But he kind of coined this term, learned helplessness. And one of the studies that he did was about elephants. And what he found in his studies about elephants and kind of how this theory kind of spawned and what promoted him or prompted him to do more research on it was that he learned that with performance elephants or elephants that are kept in captivity, often for entertainment or performance purposes, how they would keep elephants tamed or keep elephants from running away, keep them contained wherever they wanted them to be, is from the time that they were a baby, they would tie their leg, one of their legs, to a metal stake in the ground. And they would make the metal stake strong enough and the rope strong enough so that a baby elephant couldn't run away. They would pull on it, they would tug, they would try to leave. And even just talking about this kind of breaks my heart. But anyways, this is the study. I'm not here to have a social or moral commentary on what was going on there. But alas, was the study. So the baby elephant couldn't get away. And even as the elephant grew a little bit older, the stake was strong enough, the rope was strong enough that the baby elephant couldn't get away. And so eventually it just learned to stop trying. And it learned that no matter how hard I try to get away, to make a change, to get out of this situation, I cannot. So I'm just going to resign myself to it. So then, fast forward to when the elephant becomes a fully grown, fully developed adult elephant, and absolutely, probably with a bit of a swift flick of the leg, could pull the stake out of the ground or break the rope. But because it had lived a life of not being able to break free and just stopped trying, it didn't even try. The elephants don't try as adults. And as soon as the rope is on their leg and they are attached to the stake, they stay put, even though they could break free quite easily. So this is how it shows up in us as human beings as well. And there's been countless other studies around animals and different behaviors and this whole concept of learned helplessness. So it is quite robust in the research. So then fast forwarding or switching gears and looking at our own lives and looking at you and yourself and your own life. And if you have this idea that I can't break free, I can't make a change, I can't get out of this, I'm stuck, I'm trapped, it's hopeless, I'm helpless. Looking back at your own life and maybe into your own childhood and seeing what your home life was like. So often children who grow up in households with highly controlling parents, one or both parents are highly controlling, where there is no real opportunity for the child to experiment, to explore, to be creative, to kind of figure anything out on their own, to try different things, then, this learned helplessness can be cultivated as for, we grew up in that and becoming an adult. So high control, high criticism. If you were criticized a lot for things that you did, for not kind of following exactly what your parents wanted you to do, and there was a punishment involved, if you didn't, then you would learn to stay a very certain way. If there was manipulation tactics, if there was even, passive aggressiveness, some kind of negative consequence for you experiencing things, experimenting with things. Obviously not like terrible, awful, dangerous things, right? Like parents' job is to protect their children and keep them safe, but just sort of, general things that kids want to explore with and try and experience. And there just wasn't space for you to do that. Maybe there wasn't space for you to have emotions, to have a say, to have preferences. It was shut down quite quickly. So you, in essence, if you felt like you grew up in a cage, you grew up kind of tied to a stake and there wasn't much room for you to move and you couldn't break free, you couldn't get out and roam around and experience and explore and try, there just wasn't space for you to do that. And so you just learn to stay put and to stay still, tied to the stake. Then there's a good chance that you would grow up with this idea or with this being, this mindset of being helpless. So what do we do about it now? If this is something that you're struggling with, what do we do? And according to Martin Seligman, there are 3 Ps that are involved in learning the antidote to learned helplessness, which is learned optimism. And I've talked about this in some of my other talks, this idea of the internal versus external locus of control. So we're going to tie that together here and see that the people who live with an external locus of control tend to be those who also experience this learned helplessness because they think, everything is happening around them. They don't have any say. They don't have any control. They are not the directors of their own lives. Everything just sort of randomly happens and they are just passive bystanders to whatever life has. And there's nothing they can do about it except for hopefully survive. So that's someone who would have an external locus of control. And same thing with learned helplessness. People who have that external locus of control tend to struggle more with things like depression and anxiety and low self-esteem and just kind of going through life struggling because they don't really feel like they have any say or pretty much any mastery over their own lives. Now, switching gears to people who have an internal locus of control, those people are often as well the ones who have that learned optimism, which I said is the antidote for learned helplessness. So people who have an internal locus of control believe that they have say over their own lives. They don't believe that they can always control everything in their environment, but regardless, they believe that they always have say over how they are going to handle whatever it is that life has for them. They have this internal sense of personal mastery and jurisdiction over their own lives. So learned optimism, internal locus of control. How do we cultivate both of these? The first P in the 3 Ps stands for permanence. So people with learned optimism tend to believe that bad things, hard things, negative things in their lives are impermanent. So they are not permanent. This too shall pass. This is just a season that I'm going through. Things are going to get better. This is only temporary. And on the same token, they also believe that more good things are coming. They believe that on the other side of this struggle, there will be sunshine. The rainbow is coming. And they just have this general sense that hard things are temporary, good things are coming. And at the same time, they also know that good things are temporary as well, and that everything kind of goes in flux and in waves, and that's okay. There's this general sort of acceptance for the ups and the downs of life. They embrace this kind of 50-50 rule that life is 50% brutal and 50% beautiful. And generally the goal is to have that 50% beautiful be a little bit more. So maybe more like 52 to 60% is beautiful. And they kind of just accept that this is life and it's okay. And they are okay in the midst of it. The second P is prevalence. So people with learned helplessness tend to have the thought patterns that one bad thing means that everything is bad. If I get constructive feedback from my boss about something that I did that they want improvements on, I tend to think that, oh my gosh, I can't do anything right. I'm a failure. I suck. And why do I even bother? And so there's this sort of prevalence that one negative, difficult, hard thing is going to overshadow everything else in life. And there's just going to be like a general sense of inadequacy, of failure, of doom and gloom, whatever that is, it's prevalent. Whereas people with learned optimism, and how to develop our learned optimism, is to see that one bad thing, one difficult thing can be happening in isolation. And there can be this one part of our life that is a struggle that we're working on, that's been challenging, but that doesn't mean that everything is. So able to see, have that more accurate perspective that life includes all of it. Some hard stuff, some good stuff, some struggles, some successes, and just this more kind of well-rounded, well-adjusted way of looking at things. People with learned optimism also believe that when something good happens, it can permeate into other areas of their lives. And so the opposite of that one bad thing permeating into everything, which is the learned helplessness, learned optimism says one positive thing can permeate. So if you've ever had that feeling where at the end of the day, or kind of close to the end of the day, you get everything ticked off your to-do list. And not only do you feel proud of yourself and good about having ticked everything off your to-do list, the rest of the night you feel successful, you feel accomplished, you feel relaxed. You're like, life is good. I am a success, or whatever that is. I tend to get it that way a lot. I just really get into that state where I'm like, oh, I can do anything. I just got my to-do list completed for today. Tend to think that I can take over the world. Not really, but you know what I mean. So I'm really looking at that prevalence. Are you letting good things permeate into other areas of your life? The third P is personalization. So people who have learned helplessness tend to take their failures personally, tend to take their shortcomings personally. They tend to over-personalize with anything negative or difficult or challenging in their lives. So I failed on this thing. It didn't go the way that I wanted to. I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. I suck. This person didn't call me back. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. I'm worthless, whatever that is. Like just all of these really like invasive, intrusive, all or nothing thoughts when something undesirable happens. Whereas people who have learned optimism, and what you can do to start building that optimism is to really see that things that happen, failures that happen, are not a mark on your value or worth or character. They are setbacks. They are failures. Failure doesn't mean that I am a failure. Failure means I have more to learn. Failure means I have to try something else. And so not making it personal. People who have learned optimism are, on the same token, able to recognize their success as having played a part in creating that success. So on the opposite token, with this learned helplessness, people who experience learned helplessness will also see their success as not personal, but in like the not good way. So they will see a success and they'll be like, oh, it was, they'll have a success and they'll be like, oh, it was just luck, or, oh, that person was just being nice, or, it was just kind of owed to me because I had done this stuff. So they were just making an exception for me, or whatever it is, right? Where they won't actually take any ownership over the time or energy or effort or expertise or talents or abilities that went into creating that success. So not only do they blame themselves for their failures, but they renege any part in their success. It's kind of a lose-lose. Whereas people who have this learned optimism are able to use their failures as an opportunity to learn, to reflect, to grow, and don't take it on as a reflection of their person, and are also able to see the part they played in their success. They are able to personalize what they did to contribute to this wonderful outcome. The effort they put in, the time they put in, the talents and abilities and skills necessary that they had to make this happen. So our 3 Ps again. 1 is permanence or impermanence. Number 2 is prevalence. Number 3 is personalization. Optimists. Developing optimism requires that we see hard things as temporary and that good things can have a positive impact on many areas of our lives, and that we are playing a part and have the ability to create joy and success and growth and change for ourselves in our own lives. People who experience learned optimism feel good about themselves. They feel comfortable being themselves. They like themselves because they recognize what they can create, how they can grow, what they can contribute, who they are. They like that person. They are proud of that person. They feel comfortable being that person. This is something that you want to learn some steps to do as well. I have a free guide for you, and it's called 6 Simple Ways to Be Yourself Without Apology. And you can grab that. The link is in the description below. It's going to walk you through some exercises to do to really get your head into this space of liking who you are. And part of it is about seeing the fruits of your labor and seeing that you are not the elephant tied to the stake anymore, that you are strong enough, resourceful enough, and resilient enough to break free and start exploring and experiencing the vast depths and breadths of your own life. And now I want something from you. I want you to tell us something good. Tell us something that you are proud of yourself for, that you have done, that you played a part in. I want you to recognize yourself. We actually do this every week in the Shift Society. We have a check-in every Friday that basically says, tell us something good. Tell us something good that you made happen in your life, no matter how big or small. And this is not just because it feels good and it's lovely and it's a nice thing to post about, so that everybody in the Shift Society community is building up this internal locus of control, building up their learned optimism, seeing how they are vital in their own lives, and just being able to take a step back and say, good for me. I am proud of myself. So, on that note, bringing a little bit of the Shift Society here today, tell us something good. Make sure you get that 6 Simple Ways to Be with Yourself Without Apology. And as always, it is so good to have you here. Until next time, take good care.